look well now. Good. Okay, this afternoon we are still on God Lived With Them by Swami Chetanananda, and we're doing this section on Swami Vijnanananda. Now, we have discussed that he's just built the Bellarmont Temple, designed it, and took care of the building of it. And as soon as that, we're on page 602 if you're following it along at home. When the construction of Bellar Monastery was finished, Vivekananda sent Vijnanananda to start a center at Allahabad, Prayag. This city is an important pilgrimage site because the confluence of the three rivers, the Ganga, the Jamuna, and the Saraswati, is located here. Accordingly, Vijnanananda left Bellarmont in the early part of 1900. After visiting a few holy places, reached Allahabad in the fall. He first stayed with his friend, Dr. Mahendranath Odadar, and then moved to the Brahmavadan Club. The club members practiced meditation and prayer, held classes on the scriptures, sang devotional songs, and discussed spiritual topics. They were extremely happy to have Vijnanananda in their midst. The club rented 2 rooms on the upper floor of a 2-story building, a small one, 10 by 10, for the shrine, and a larger one, 18 by 10, for a library and a meeting room. In front of these rooms was a long, roofless veranda. An open staircase by the side of the house extended from the ground to the veranda. Then on to the roof. On the roof there was a privy that was cleaned daily by a sweeper. There was no water or electricity in the house. Vijnanananda had to collect water from the street supply of the municipality, cook his own meals, rice and vegetable curry only, on 2 kerosene stoves, wash the pots and dishes, and do all the household work. In addition, he regularly did physical exercises, practiced pranayama, breathing exercises. He spent morning and afternoon in worship, jopam, and meditation, and study in the shrine room. In the evening, the club members would conduct a Vesper service. He also gave classes on the Gita to club members in the library hall. He slept in this hall at night. Vijnanananda loved to be alone and was a man of few words. If anybody asked for some advice, he would say, "Practice what you studied in the primary book in your childhood days. Always speak the truth, and do not steal or covet others' things. Follow these two moral principles, and then everything else will take care of itself." Sounds like that book that was popular in the 70s. Everything you needed to know you learned in kindergarten. During his early days in Allahabad, Vijnanananda would go for a daily bath before sunrise in the Triveni, literally the 3 braids, the confluence of the 3 holy rivers. This is where they hold the Kumbh Mela, the Maha Kumbh Mela, and the Kumbh Mela every year. On one day after his bath, while reciting a hymn to the Mother Ganga, Vijnanananda had a vision. The goddess Mother Triveni appeared as a beautiful young girl with 3 braids hanging down her back, and then disappeared again into the water. He was overwhelmed by the vision. After chanting, when he began to walk towards the ashram, he saw Mother Triveni walking in the same direction with her braids dangling. After a while, she disappeared. When Brahmananda heard about the vision, he confirmed it as genuine. Vijnanananda himself said, "The test of a true vision is this. It leaves a lasting spiritual impression on the mind that generates awareness and bliss. I still get joy when I think of that virginal form of the Divine Mother. Swamiji had great affection for Vijnanananda and called him the Bishop of Allahabad. As a result of his intense, one-pointed spiritual disciplines, Vijnanananda had various kinds of visions and experiences. On the day Vivekananda passed away, Vijnanananda was meditating in the shrine of the Brahmavadan Club, and he had a vision of Swamiji seated on the lap of Ramakrishna. Vijnanananda became very anxious about Swamiji. He wondered, why have I seen Swamiji in this way? The next day, he received a cable from Bellarmont with the sad news of Vivekananda's passing. In Allahabad, Vijnanananda did not make any effort to preach the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. In fact, preaching was against his nature. He was satisfied leading his life according to the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna. He plunged into the inner realm and seldom went outside the club. His simple, austere, God-centered life nevertheless attracted people, including Pandit Madan Mohan Malavya, a saintly and scholarly leader of India who founded the Varanasi Hindu University, which is very famous still as one of the leading universities of Sanskrit in India. The Pandit was charmed to see in Vijnanananda the living representation of Vedanta. The Swami was completely indifferent to worldly comforts or any external things. One day, seeing the Swami's worn-out water jar, Madan Mohan remarked, "It needs replacing." A Vedanta scripture says, if you want the knowledge of Brahman, shun crowds like a snake, good food like poison, and sex like the devil. Vijnanananda followed this advice to the letter. He was extremely punctual. During the daytime, he would give interviews to earnest people. But if a person arrived even 1 minute late, he would not see him. At night, he would not allow anybody to stay in the center. His dress was quite unusual. A long, loose shirt, either cotton or wool, with many pockets, a piece of dhoti reaching his knees. Put this picture in your head. A couple of pairs of socks, even in the hot summer, worn-out shoes, and a cap that covered his ears. When he went somewhere by Eka, an open horse carriage, people on the street would look at him with curiosity. Vijnanananda would make fun of them. What are you looking at? A monkey? Yes, I'm a monkey devotee of Lord Ramachandra. This is the way mystics hide their true stature from the gaze of the public. No one ever saw Vijnanananda wasting his time by indulging in chit-chat or gossip, nor did he allow others to do so in the center. When he was not practicing his spiritual disciplines, he studied Vedanta literature thoroughly and regularly with Bhagavad Dutt, an orthodox Vedic Pandit of Allahabad. He also published a number of important books during his 38-year stay in Allahabad. In 1904, he translated Sri Ramakrishna's Life and Teachings by Suresh Chandra Dutta from Bengali into Hindi and published it as Paramahamsa Charitra. His later publications were, Jal Sarvar Arahar, Karkhana, an Engineering and Waterworks Manual, in 2 volumes in Bengali. Translation of Himhira's Brihajataka and Surya Siddhanta, two ancient Sanskrit astrological and astronomical works, the first into English and the second into Bengali, and translations of Devi Bhagavata and Narada Pancharatra, two famous Hindu scriptures from Sanskrit into English. Toward the end of his life, he was translating Valmiki's Ramayana from Sanskrit into English, but this was left unfinished. He later said of this experience, "When I sit down to translate the Ramayana, I forget the world. I see Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, and Mahavirji in front of me." There was a copy of his Ramayana, his handwritten Ramayana, that Swami Chetanananda had at one time. Also a copy of his astrology book. He was into Hindu astrology in a big way. During his early period of sadhana in Allahabad, Vijnanananda was very strict about women. He did not allow any women to visit the Brahmavadan Club, which was actually a men's club. One day, the sweeper went somewhere to do errands, so he sent his young daughter to clean Vijnanananda's privy. She met the Swami while walking down the steps and greeted him with a smile. He did not want a woman to clean his privy, so he told her, "Starting tomorrow, I don't need anybody to clean my privy." She reported this to her father. That evening, the sweeper rushed to the Swami and apologized. At first, Vijnanananda said sternly to him, "I do not need anybody. I shall go to the public privy." Later, out of compassion, he told the poor sweeper, "If you want to serve me, please come, but don't send anyone else." Shivananda once remarked, "Even a she-fly has no entry in Hari Prasanna's ashram." Hari Prasanna is Vijnanananda. Let the reader not misunderstand. Vijnanananda did not hate women, but he was an ideal monk who followed his guru's advice without compromise. Later, when he moved to his own ashram, his sister came to visit him. He arranged for her to stay in an inn. In 1918, his mother came to Prayag for a pilgrimage and a holy bath during Purnakumbha, an auspicious festival that falls once every 12 years. He arranged for her to stay in the ashram guest house and served her wholeheartedly. He was a pure soul who had conquered lust, a great obstacle in spiritual life. Once he said to a monk in Allahabad, "I have never seen any woman, even in my dreams," meaning no lustful dreams. "In my 53 years of life, the Divine Mother has never shown me her bewitching form." During a talk to the monks at Bellarmont in 1937, Vijnanananda said, "I respect women as you respect Holy Mother in the temple. They are aspects of the Divine Mother. Bow down to them from a distance because you are monks." When Vijnanananda became the president of the Ramakrishna order, he initiated many women and was very kind and loving towards them. Once he said to a woman devotee, "Call on Holy Mother, you will achieve everything." The Master is very strict about bestowing his grace, but the Mother is very compassionate. "I have achieved everything by her grace." Last time I went to India, there was a saying, even in the monasteries, well, yes, we all pray to Ramakrishna, but when we need compassion and grace, we go to Mother. So they all go to Mother, at least the ones I talked to. Vijnanananda practiced severe austerities, 15 hours a day, for 10 years while at the Brahmavadan Club. In 1910, he bought a house and a vacant plot across the road from it in the Mutiganj area of Allahabad. He turned the house into a Ramakrishna monastery and built another house on the vacant plot for a charitable homeopathic dispensary. He took Brahmachari Panchanan from the Varanasi Home of Service as his assistant. Panchanan worked in the charitable homeopathic dispensary, and he also served the Swami from 1910 to 1924. He later left the order. Vijnanananda continued to practice his sadhana in solitude as Ramakrishna had directed. Meditate in the mind, in the corner of the room, and in the forest. He was a yogi as described in the Gita. He knows bliss in the Atman and wants nothing else. Cravings torment the heart. He renounces cravings. He is unperturbed by adversity, does not hanker after happiness, and is free from anger and fear. I call him a seer and illumined. Second chapter, verses 55 and 56. However, the Swami could not hide himself for long. Gradually, people became aware of his spiritual greatness and began to come to him for guidance. Allahabad has an extreme climate, very hot in the summer and severely cold in the winter. The ashram had no electricity, and moreover, it was very close to the main rail line in Mutiganj, which made it very noisy. It was unbearably hot in the summer, so Vijnanananda would meditate with a wet towel on his head. Despite these hardships, nothing could disturb the equanimity of Vijnanananda's mind. And here, I get upset when it hits 88 and it's hot. I want a fan on it or air conditioning. And these swamis, I mean, honest to goodness, total control of their mind and their senses. Sometime in 1916 or 1917, the Swami suffered from acute blood dysentery for many days. He did not allow anyone to serve him. He only asked his assistant to keep a jar of cold water in his room. He endured the pain alone in his bed with his eyes closed, as if absorbed in deep meditation. If anyone offered to help, he would put his index finger over his lips to indicate silence, and then would dismiss the person with a wave of his hand. Vijnanananda was also an embodiment of forbearance, and finally was cured with homeopathic medicine. In the beginning, the financial condition of the Allahabad Ramakrishna Math was poor. There were only a few devotees, and Vijnanananda had to take out a loan of 4,100 rupees in order to buy the house. A Muslim horse carriage driver collected monthly subscriptions for the ashram from some of those devotees. At the time, the Swami had not started to give initiation, so he had no disciples to assist him. He appointed Benny, a local boy, as his personal attendant. In the early stages, there were no cooking facilities in the ashram. Some devotees took turns cooking for Vijnanananda in their own homes, and Benny would collect the food in a tiffin carrier. The Swami asked the devotees to cook simple meals for him, so they cooked only rice, lentils, and a vegetable. These devotees knew his temperament, so they never disobeyed him. They were happy to serve this great soul. Later, when the ashram grew, Vijnanananda established cooking facilities and hired a cook. The Swami was so fond of tea that he took it several times a day. He and Subodhananda. He would buy the best tea available in the market and would invite everybody, visitors, servants, sweepers, and carriage drivers, to his tea parties. Vijnanananda believed wholeheartedly that all works of the ashram belong to God, but the head of the center is responsible if anything goes wrong. Once the doctor of the charitable homeopathic dispensary resigned. This created a great difficulty for the Swami. He could not find a doctor immediately, and he was very concerned for the indigent patients. He pondered, well, it is the Master's work. I shall give medicine chanting his name. I think this happened to many of the Swamis in the early hospitals and homes of service, because I remember talking to Satan Maharaj, whose name I can't remember, and he said that he had to jump in and help with surgeries even in the early days, and they were not trained, but they chanted the Lord's name and did the best they could. Vijnanananda had no knowledge of medicine. Nevertheless, he started to go to the dispensary every morning. He gave homeopathic medicine to the patients without asking about their diseases or physical problems. When the female patients tried to tell him their physical problems, the Swami said, "Don't talk to me about your disease. Take the medicine and go home." So far, we haven't heard they were dying, maybe. We do believe the Lord takes care of it if you are earnest and have total faith. It was amazing. Every single drop of homeopathic medicine he gave cured each patient. Not one had to return for a second dose. Now that's amazing for homeopathic medicine right there, because usually you take it and you take a little more, a little more, a little more. When this miraculous news spread, more patients began to appear every day. It became difficult to control the crowds. Then the Swami brought in a doctor from Varanasi and was relieved of the responsibility. The doctor checked the stock of medicine and discovered that even the nitric acid bottles were empty. Frightened and amazed, he said to the Swami, "Maharaj, you have cleared even the nitric acid." Vijnanananda simply said, "I have given medicine in the name of the Master, and the patients got well. There is no credit for me. I did as he asked me to do." We should all have this kind of absolute faith and belief. Okay, now he's going to go on to Varanasi. We'll start this part. Sometime in the 1880s, probably while he was a government engineer, Vijnanananda met Trilanga Swami, a venerated saint of Varanasi. He later spoke about his visit. "I went to see him and found him lying naked in the hot summer sun. People said he had a dark complexion, but I found him as bright as molten gold. He seemed to me to be a great soul. He emanated a lustrous radiance, demonstrating the difference between ordinary mortals and spiritually powerful souls." Since Vijnanananda was an engineer, and he always consulted and was always consulted regarding the construction of the Ramakrishna Mission's hospitals or temples, in 1909, the Swami went to Varanasi to supervise the construction of the Ramakrishna Mission Home of Service. While riding from the rail station to the center, Vijnananda's horse carriage suddenly overturned, and one of his legs was twisted inside a wheel. Although he was in severe pain, he was able to pull his leg out immediately. Vijnanananda reached the ashram by another carriage, and the doctors took care of him quickly. That night he had a high temperature and a terrible headache. He thought to himself, "Lord Vishwanath, I have come to your city to work for the Master. This is an unselfish action. Why has this accident happened? The Master's work will suffer." Thinking thus, he fell asleep. Vijnanananda later narrated the following experience. It was 1 or 2 a.m. I saw Lord Shiva with matted hair and smiling face appear before me. I said, "Lord, have you come to take me? But I cannot go now. I have yet to complete the Master's work first." He didn't listen to me. Smiling, he came forward and then embraced me. Immediately, my body became as cold as ice. I then said to him, "Goodbye now, Lord. I shall have to do the Master's work." Lord Shiva laughed and left. Strangely enough, in the morning I felt no fever, and also my wounds were healed to some extent. Even now, sometimes I see that calm, smiling form of Lord Shiva. In 1918, while he was at Varanasi, Vijnanananda visited Sarnath, about 6 miles away. Sarnath is a historical site where Buddha gave his first sermon. Vijnanananda once mentioned to a professor from Sarnath that the images of Buddha and other deities looked beautiful and living when they were first excavated, but when they were later preserved in the Sarnath Museum, those images lost some of their solemnity and charm. Even so, these divine images are always inspiring. The Swami described his visit to Sarnath and his experience. Once during my morning walk, I decided to visit Sarnath. I had no previous plan to do so. After arriving there on foot, I looked around. While I was there, a guide informed me that there was a stone image containing carvings of Buddha's entire life story, from his birth to his Mahaparinirvana. The guide accompanied me there. While looking at the image, I had a wonderful vision. I saw a formless ocean of light, and the whole universe was gradually merging into it. Like a speck, I was watching that blissful glow with wonder standing on the shore of the ocean of light. I was beside myself. Then, in the twinkling of an eye, the universe completely disappeared. And from the ocean of pure consciousness, the compassionate, loving form of Buddha appeared. What a joy. Even now, while describing it, I feel that joy. I was in that state for some time. Then I heard the guide's voice. "Let us go forward. Let us go forward." Gradually, I regained my normal consciousness. The guide thought I had fallen asleep. I followed the guide, but I was extremely intoxicated. In the afternoon, when I returned to the center, the monks asked where I had been and said that lunch had been saved for me. I didn't tell them where I'd been. I only said, "I don't feel like eating now." I quietly went to bed. The blissful intoxication continued for 3 days. Later, when I went to visit the temple of Vishwanath in Varanasi, I thought to myself, why have I come here? To look at a stone? Then the same vision opened up. It was as if Vishwanath were telling me, the light is the same here as there. Truth is one. And I think we'll stop there this evening. We're going to continue with, I'll read this last, there's only 2 paragraphs. On 5 February 1938, Vijnanananda again left Allahabad to visit the center in Varanasi. After supper, the monks and devotees assembled in his room and asked him to talk about Sri Ramakrishna. Instead of sharing his reminiscences, the Swamis asked, "Well, whom do you love, the master or the mother?" "We love both," came the answer. The Swami said, "Then it is all right. The master is Rama and Krishna. The mother is Sita and Yogamaya. As the king visits his subjects sometimes in royal dress and sometimes in disguises to evaluate their needs, so the master came this time in disguise. It is true the master will come back soon." The next day at 5 p.m., Vijnanananda went to the Durga temple by car. He returned an hour and a half later and immediately went to bed. No one dared to ask him anything. He remained immersed in the thought of Mother Durga for quite some time. When his spiritual mood subsided, he sat in his chair and supper was served. Seeing the various dishes, he remarked, "Who can eat so many dishes? When I could eat, nobody gave me sufficient food. Now I cannot eat, and people are serving me all kinds of food." After supper, Vijnanananda told the monks, "The Americans respect Swamiji more than the master. Swamiji had a wonderful, overwhelming personality. People felt inadequate in front of him. When we mentioned this to Swamiji, he said, 'It is the play of that mad Brahman,' meaning Sri Ramakrishna. 'He is working through me.' Swamiji is very simple and a man of renunciation." Okay, next Wednesday we will go on pilgrimage with Vijnanananda. So, Saturday, Swami Chetanananda is back to read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And Sunday, he will be a one-man show at 11 o'clock, giving the talk, "In the Image of God." And as I say, we'll continue with Vijnanananda next Wednesday. Okay, then the next Saturday, the 8th, is our Karma Yoga Day. So get prepared to come for Karma Yoga. We'll have inside jobs and outside jobs, depending upon the temperature. And the topic, Swami, there will be a gospel reading, but I believe Swami Chetanananda is elsewhere that weekend. So there will be a gospel reading. We don't know who's doing it yet. And the topic on the 9th of November will be Dream the Impossible Dream. So we hope to see you all. I wish we could see you all at Karma Yoga Day, but you live so far away. So many of you. Okay. Any questions about Vijnanananda's life? Now, those of you that are disciples of Swami Swahananda, you know that Vijnanananda was his guru. He was the last of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, who was the last president, being a direct disciple. And Swami Swahananda met him when he was very young. I think he said he was about 13 or 14 and was initiated then. Yeah. Okay. So no questions or comments. We will end with a chant. Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om Tat Sat, Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. See you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna Prana.
Yeah?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Thank you.
Take care, Leanne. We'll see you soon, won't we? We'll see Ava soon.
Yes, you will. You will
Yes.
see Ava soon.
Yeah. We're looking forward to that.
She is too.
Lexus, take care of that Austin Center. Aren't you there now?
I'm here, Krishna Prana. I'll try.
Yep. Take
She's
care
doing
of
a great job. She's really,
like Vijnanananda
really
said,
doing a
you're
great
doing
job.
the Lord's work. So we do the best we can. Okay.
Thank you.
See you
Thanks
later.
so much for this reading. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.